I arrived late to the party because that's what I always did. Worked later than planned. Missed the first round of laughter. Slipped in after people had already decided who I was for the evening. The house was warm in the way families make warmth, overlapping conversations, music low enough to ignore, coats piled on a chair like an afterthought. I took off my jacket and folded it neatly over my arm, an old habit that made me feel anchored. My brother was at the counter, laughing too loudly. My aunt waved from the couch, her phone already in her hand, thumb hovering as if she'd been waiting for a cue. I threaded my way through the room, exchanging nods, small smiles. Nobody asked why I was late. Nobody ever did. At some point, after a drink I didn't finish and a plate I barely touched, I said it carelessly, even optimistically. I can't wait for the reunion tomorrow. The sentence hung there longer than I expected. My brother turned toward me, grin already forming, as if I told in joke he couldn't wait to repeat. What? He chuckled. It happened yesterday. There was a ripple of amusement, light and unthreatening. I felt the smile freeze on my face, not from embarrassment but from the effort of recalculating. Yesterday. That didn't fit. I'd checked my messages that morning. Nothing. No reminder, no change of plans. My aunt stood up, already unlocking her phone. Oh, you didn't know. She sounded genuinely puzzled, the way people do when they're surprised by their own forgetfulness. She held the screen toward me. Look. Photos scrolled past the long table at the community hall, the banner crooked against the wall, faces flushed and close together. My cousins, my parents, my brother leaning into someone else's frame. A cake I recognized from last year. Even the joke centerpiece we reused every time. I watched without touching the phone. My brother shrugged, light as air. Guess I forgot to tell you, haha. Something settled then. Not anger, at least not yet, more like a recognition. This was how it happened now, not through shouting or open hostility. Through laughter that smoothed the edges off exclusion until it felt almost accidental. I handed the phone back. Looks like it was nice, I said. My voice sounded distant to my own ears, like it was coming from the other room. I put my jacket on. No one tried to stop me. Someone said my name, but not urgently. I walked out into the cold without a word, the door closing softly behind me. The drive home was quiet. I didn't turn on the radio. I let the silence press against me until the questions stopped forming. I knew better than to chase answers that would only be framed as misunderstandings. The next few days passed without comment. No apology, no follow-up message. Just the usual group chat chatter, memes, half plans, nothing that required acknowledgement of absence. I didn't respond. Not pointedly. Just not at all. At work things were different. I'd been brought into a project months earlier, one that required discretion and a certain distance from personal relationships. It involved organizing an annual grant review for a local foundation, a role that was mostly invisible until it wasn't. My name wasn't on any banners. I didn't get thanked publicly. But my signature mattered. Midweek, an email came through flagged as urgent. A request from an organization I recognized immediately. My family's community association. The same hall from the photos. They were applying for funding to expand their annual events, including the reunion. I read the proposal carefully. It wasn't bad. It was incomplete. The process required a formal disclosure of conflicts of interest. It required confirmation of attendance records, transparency in planning committees, and acknowledgement of all contributors. The application listed names. Mine wasn't there. I forwarded the file to the compliance office with a note missing disclosures. Please request clarification. By Friday, the association received a standard inquiry from the foundation, polite, procedural, unmistakable. They needed to account for discrepancies. They needed to explain why a listed family coordinator had not been notified of the last event. My phone rang that evening. I watched it vibrate across the table before answering. My brother said. His voice was careful now, trimmed of humor. Quick question. Did you get an email about the association?
Yes,
I said. There was a pause. They're saying the application's on hold. I know. Another pause, longer this time. They're asking about you. I figured they might. The line stayed open. I could hear his breathing, the faint sound of a television in the background. Finally, "We didn't think it mattered," he said, not defensively, almost confused. I usually don't what?" He didn't answer. "They're just following procedure," I said. "It's not personal." He let out a short laugh that didn't land. "Can you fix it?" I thought of the photos, the laughter, the shrug. "They need accurate information," I said. "That's all." After we hung up, I sent one more email to compliance, attaching a brief statement confirming my role and noting that I had not been notified of the most recent event. No accusations, no commentary, just facts. The following week, the association revised its application. My name appeared under coordinators. A new message arrived in the family chat, awkwardly phrased, thanking everyone who helps behind the scenes. No one mentioned the reunion. At the next gathering, weeks later, I arrived on time. People made space for me without comment. My aunt offered me a drink and held my gaze a second longer than usual. My brother nodded, subdued. We talked about neutral things. The weather, work. Someone asked if I'd seen the photos from yesterday's setup meeting. I smiled. "No," I said. "I wasn't there." Silence settled, brief but real. No one laughed, and that was enough.